Well, hello. I'm Matthew Gurnsey, the Kilted Man. It's my pleasure to be here. Well, wherever it is that we all are, I suppose, all together. And and I just have to make sure if everything is going well with the video here. One moment. Not sure if you can see anything. Well, ought to be able to. Oh dear. Well, stand by for technical difficulties. Oh, there we go. All right. As it turns out, everything was perfectly fine. There's a delay. So I was looking at my little monitor there, and it was still the picture of Edinburgh. I hope you enjoyed the picture of Edinburgh, by the way. Um, and uh, and I come to you from an undisclosed basement, wishing you all good cheer. So I think it might be wise if, for all of our sakes, we begin with a toast. And any of you who have seen me before know that I always begin with the same toast. It's a long-standing tradition. May those that love us, and those that do not love us, may they learn to love us. And if they do not learn to love us, may God twist their ankles so that we may know them by their limping. Solange. So I have had the privilege of performing at your local library there a number of times and loved it every time. And I was scheduled this year to do that in person, but due to unforeseen circumstances, I'll be coming to you over the airwaves. At least that's the hope. So it seems on my end like it's going well. And so I'm going to play the show, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it. So let's start off with a sea shanty to see how it goes. To Holloway Joe. When I was a little lad and saw me mother told me, well, Holloway Joe. And if I did not kiss the girls, my lips would grow all mouldy. Well, Holloway Joe. Well, Holloway, we're bound for better weather. Well, Holloway Joe. King Louis was the king of France before the revolution. Well, Holloway Joe. But then he got his head cut off, which spoiled his constitution. Well, Holloway Joe. Hey, don't you see the black cloud rising? Well, Holloway Joe. We squared our yards and away we rolled with the fiddles playing handy. Well, Holloway Joe. With a roll and go and a westward ho and a Yankee doodle dandy. Well, Holloway Joe. Way Holloway, our good ship now is rolling. Way Holloway Joe. St. Patrick was a decent man, he came from decent people. Way Holloway Joe. He built a church in Ireland and on it sat a steeple. Way Holloway Joe. From Ireland then he drove the snakes and he drank up all the whiskey. Way Holloway Joe. Which made him sing and dance a jig, he felt sae fine and frisky. Way Holloway Joe. Way Holloway, our good ship now is rolling. Way Holloway Joe. Way Holloway, we're bound for better weather. Way Holloway Joe. So I actually considered trying to set up an applause track so that I could feel like I was there in front of an audience, but I couldn't figure out how to work that out, and I thought it might be cheesy anyway. All I could find was a little audio box, which I might try for the next streaming show, which made funny noises, which would work well after my dreadful jokes. So we'll see. We'll try that out. But I have a new song for you. This one comes down from the North Country. This is the Oost Tramping Song. Come along, let us step out together. Come along, be it fair or stormy weather, or the hills of home before us and the purple of the heather. Let us sing a happy chorus. Come along. Oh, now gaily sings the lark, and the sky is awake with the promise of the day as the road we gladly take. So it's heel and toe and forward, bidding farewell to the town, and the welcome that awaits us ere the sun goes down. Come along, let us step out together. Come along, be it fair or stormy weather, or the hills of home before us and the purple of the heather. Let us sing a happy chorus. Come along. It's the smell of sea and shore, it's the tang of bog and peat, it's the scent of briar and myrtle that puts magic in your feet. So home we go rejoicing over bracken, over stile, and soon we will be tramping on the last long mile. Come along, let us step out together. Come along, be it fair or stormy weather, or the hills of home before us and the purple of the heather. Let us sing a happy chorus. Come along, let us sing a happy chorus. Come along. Well, thanks again. For those of you who have not seen me before, I forget that I should tell you some about the instruments that I'm playing. So this particular one that you were just hearing is a concertina. And it's a wee cousin to the accordion, I suppose. And there are a few different kinds of concertina in the world. There's an English and an Anglo. And on the English, the notes are different on the pull than they are on the push. And on the Anglo, the notes are the same on the pull and the push, but to play a scale, you play one note on every other side. And so that can, they set up both those systems so that you can play very fast. This is neither of those. This is a Haydn duet. And you'll probably not see another one of these because I've got two entirely different scales on both sides so that I can play two different harmonies and sing a third melody if I can wrap my brain around it, and so they don't build a lot of these. But to give you an idea of how it works, let's do a tune set for you, and I'll play just half of it, and I'll turn so that you can watch my fingers. So we'll do, let's do an Irish tune set for you. How about The Rocky Road to Dublin into the Irish Washerwoman? O'Malley is dead, and O'Reilly don't know it. O'Reilly is dead, and O'Malley don't know it. They're both laying dead in the very same bed, and the one doesn't know that the other one's dead. Thanks again. So that's a concertina for you. And what would be good after that? Let's do another drinking song. Well, that would mean that I get to give another toast. So, as you slide down the banister of life, may the splinters never point in the wrong direction. It's funny. A lot of my toasts are said with a little more heart than perhaps they usually are. It's been quite the year that we've got to start to here. Well, in Ireland, there was a pub that was trying to sell hard cider, and it was foul. They couldn't get anybody to buy it, and they'd made quite a bit of it. And so they talked to a musician. They said, "Do you suppose you could, write us a ditty, help us to sell this stuff?" And he did, and it turned out to be quite popular. Actually, they couldn't keep it on the shelves after this. Didn't improve the flavour, of course, but that didn't seem to matter. So this is the song that started it all. Well, I'll tell you a story that happened to me one day as I went down to Cork on the Lee. The sun it was bright and the day it was warm. Says I, a quick pint wouldn't do me no harm. So I went in and ordered a bottle of stout. Said the bartender, "Sorry, the beer's all sold out. Try whiskey, young laddie, 10 years in the wood." Says I, "I'll try cider, I've heard that it's good. But I'll never, no never, no never again if I live to be 100 or 110. I fell to the ground and I could not get up after drinking a pint of the Johnny Jump Up. After downing a third, I went out to the yard, where I bumped into Brophy, the big civic guard. "Come here to me, lad, don't you know in the law?" Well, I up with my fist and I shattered his jaw. He fell to the ground, his knees doubled up. That wasn't I that hit him, was the Johnny Jump Up. The next thing I know, I'm down to Cork on the Lea, was a cripple on crutches, and says he to me, "I'm afeard for me life, I'll be hit by a cart. Won't you help me across to the highwayman's bar?" But after a sip, oh, the cider so sweet, he threw down his crutches and danced on his feet. But I'll never, no never, no never again if I live to be 100 or 110. I fell to the ground and I could not get up after drinking a pint of the Johnny Jump Up. Well, a man died in the Lee Road by the name of McNabb, and they dressed him and they laid him outside on the slab. And after the coroner his measurements did take, his wife took him home for a bloody fine wake. Well, the clock it struck 12, and the beer it was high, when the corpse he sat up, and he says with a sigh, "I can't get to heaven, they won't let me up, till I bring them a pint of the Johnny Jump Up. So I'll never, no never, no never again if I live to be 100 or 110. I fell to the ground and I could not get up after drinking a pint of the Johnny Jump Up." Perhaps another toast. At least we drink. Let's see. Here's to those that wish us well, and all the rest can go to find another live streaming concert somewhere else. Certainly not this one. Let's do something slow and sweet after all of that. See if I can catch my breath. I have to find a key I like. Oh, the summertime has come, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the bloomin' heather. Will you go, lassie, go, and we'll all go together to wild mountain thyme, all around the bloomin' heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will range through the wild and the deep glens sae dreary, to return with my spoils to the bower o' my dearie. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to wild mountain thyme, all around the bloomin' heather. Will you go, lassie, go? If my true love she'll not go, I would surely find another, where the wild mountain thyme grows around the bloomin' heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to wild mountain thyme, all around the bloomin' heather. Will you go, lassie, go? So, a lad decides to take a vacation down to Australia. He wants to see as much of it as he possibly can, but he hasn't got a lot of time, so he rents a vehicle while he's there. And sadly, nobody has explained to him about the hazards of driving in Australia. And one of those hazards is that apparently there are a lot of things that get on the road, very large things like kangaroos and whatnot. And well, he was out in the middle of nowhere and he hit one of them and was taken off to the hospital unconscious. A dreadful accident. And when he woke up in the hospital bed, he had no idea how long he'd been there or where he was, and he can barely open his eyes. He looks across the hospital room and he sees what is probably a nurse. He says, "Nurse, did they bring me here to die?" And she says, "No, they brought you in yesterday." It's tough telling jokes to yourself. I just have to tell you that up front. Let's do this. This comes down frae Nova Scotia. Farewell in Nova Scotia, the sea-bound coast, that yon mountains dark and drear I be. For when I'm far away from the briny ocean tossed, will you ever heave a sigh or a wish for me? The sun, it was setting in the west, the birds sang on every tree, and all nature seemed inclined for to rest, but still there is never rest for me. Farewell in Nova Scotia, the sea-bound coast, that yon mountains dark and drear I be. For when I am far away from the briny ocean tossed, will you ever heave a sigh or a wish for me? I grieve to leave my nation, oh, I grieve to leave my comrades bold, and my parents that I love so well, and the bonny, bonny lass that I do adore. Farewell in Nova Scotia, the sea-bound coast, that your mountains dark and drear I be. For when I'm far away from the briny ocean tossed, will you ever heave a sigh or a wish for me? Drums they do beat and the wars they do roar, our captain calls and we must go away. Farewell, farewell to Nova Scotia's charms, it's early in the morning and far, far away. Farewell in Nova Scotia, the sea-bound coast, let your mountains dark and drear I be. For when I'm far away from the briny ocean tossed, Will you ever heave a sigh or a wish for me? Will you ever heave a sigh or a wish for me? The duck goes into the shoe store, goes up to the guy behind the counter. He says, "Excuse me, do you have any duck food?" The guy says, "No, this is a shoe store. We sell shoes here, not duck food." And the duck says, "Okay," and he leaves. The next day, the duck comes back in, goes up to the guy behind the counter. He says, "Excuse me, do you have any duck food?" The guy says, "No, you were in here yesterday. We just sell shoes, still shoes, no duck food." The duck says, "Okay," and he leaves. Next day, the duck is back in, goes up to the guy behind the counter. He says, "Excuse me, do you have any duck food?" The guy says, "Listen, this is the third day running you've come in here asking me about duck food. We don't sell duck food. We've never sold duck food. We're never going to sell duck food. And what's more, if you come in here asking me for duck food one more time, I'm going to nail your flat feet to this floor." The duck says, "Okay," and he leaves. The next day, the duck is back in. He goes up to the guy behind the counter. He says, "Excuse me, do you have any nails?" The guy says, "No." He says, "Do you have any duck food?" Well, what should we do after that? Let's play this. We haven't played this yet. What did the ocean say to the sailor as they went by on the waves? Oh, I just spoiled it. Didn't say anything. It just waved. Anyway, never mind. Here we go. Oh, I have been reminded that I should mention to you that I have a few CDs which are brilliant, but I also have a brand new CD. This is just released this year, and it's released in honor of the ALA library theme, which is Legends and Fairy Tales, because of course Celtic music, it's perfect, right? So my plan was to release this CD and then play at libraries all across the country with Legends and Fairy Tales. So I suppose we're doing that in a manner of speaking. But as often happens in Legends and Fairy Tales, it was not perhaps as I had envisioned it. Speaking of Legends and Fairy Tales, let's see. I hope I get the key right. We'll see. By the hills to a land where fancy is free, and stand where the peaks reach the sky and the rocks meet the sea, where the rivers run clear and the bracken is gold in the sun, and cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to a land where legend remains, where stories of old stir the heart and may yet come again, where the past has been lost and the future it's still to be won, and cares of tomorrow must wait till this day is done. Come by the hills to a land where life is a song, and sing while the birds fill the air with their joy all day long, where the trees sway in time and even the wind sings in tune, and cares of tomorrow must wait till the stage is torn. This is a bode psaltery, spelled Psaltery. And the last time you heard about a psaltery might have been in the Old Testament. Was it Saul who was serenaded on the psaltery? And now you have been too. So the psaltery is a chromatic instrument, which means that it has the same kinds of keys that a piano would have, per se. And if this were a piano, this would be all of the white keys on this side, or the naturals. This would be all of the black keys, or the accidentals on this side. And so I hold the bow in the middle and play across the way like so. So you get a general idea of how the psaltery works for that. And because there are no frets or stops, it's an incredibly resonant instrument, which means that it works really well for some modern music that you might be familiar with. But I think this is a live show, so you'll be able to figure out what that was all about. Anyway, on to other fun music. After that, we should do something upbeat. So, but I'm looking for something upbeat. This is an easy instrument to grab. In Celtic music, as you might discover throughout this presentation, we have a long-standing history for singing dead depressing lyrics to upbeat happy tunes. And this is one of my favorite examples of that. In fact, I think one of my favorite times for performing this song was at a wee pub nestled high in the mountains of Colorado. And right up next to the stage was a table that had 4 individuals sitting at it that all had at least 2 things in common. One was that they were all wearing Go Army t-shirts. And the other was that they all had at least one prosthetic limb. And I thought to myself, should I play this song? Should I skip this song? Well, me being who I am, naturally, I played the song. And when I finished, I was ready to go on to my next song. But instead, they got up from their table and kind of stormed the stage and made me stop what I was doing right then and write down the lyrics for them, which I was pleased to do. And it made for a grand story as well, and we became friends. And I was playing, at least a year later, possibly a couple of years later, at a large Scottish festival. And someone came up to me after one of my shows, and they said, after I'd played this song, they said, do you know, that's not the first time I've heard that song. They said, I just came down from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was visiting to the VA hospital down that way. And don't you know, they're all playing your song. So I am pleased to say that the song is becoming popular again, at least by those listening to me. I'm trying to bring it back, so we'll see what you think. My son John was tall. I have to remember how it goes. I haven't played this song in a while. Hold on. I forgot. I get another drink. That's the way that it goes, right? If you forget a lyric, then you get to drink, and then you'll remember more lyrics that way. I'm sure that's the way that works. Oh, I suddenly can't remember a single clean toast, but I took notes. One moment here. No. Oh, here's an old traditional one for you. Here's to your enemies' enemies. And it's quite appropriate for this song also. My son John was tall and slim, and he had a leg for every limb. Now he's got no legs at all, both shot away by a cannonball. Orum I, fod little I, whack for diddle to me, orum right. Well, were you drunk or were you blind to leave your 2 fine legs behind? Was it from walking upon the sea? Took your legs from the ground to the knee. Orum right, fod little I, whack for diddle to me, orum right. Well, I wasn't drunk and I wasn't blind. I laid my two fine legs behind. Was a cannonball on the 5th of May. Took my two fine legs away. Oh, I'm right, fat little lie. Whack the diddle to me, oh, I'm right. Well, all foreign wars are now denounced twixt this King of England and that King of France. Rather my legs as they used to be than the King of Spain and his whole navy. Oh, I'm right, fat little lie, whack the diddle to me, oh, I'm right. Well, I was tall and I was slim and I had a leg for every limb. Now I've got no legs at all. You can't win a race with a cannonball. Oh, I'm right, fat little lie, whack the diddle to me, oh, I'm right. Oh, I'm right, fat little lie, whack the diddle to me, oh, I'm right. Well, let's see. Maybe it's time for another tune set. That'll be all right. I'll do a more Scottish-themed tune set than the last one. Well, I think it's time for another drinking song. Nope. My goodness. Oh, I do have one. I have a new clean toast. Here's to bread and eggs and milk and cinnamon. The French toast. I do hope some of you laugh out there. It'd be dreadful if nobody laughs. Well, feel free to sing along wherever you are. We're supposed to be doing this all together, right? So this would be good for your neighbors. Sing loud. I've been a wild rover for many a year, and I spent all of my money on whiskey and beer, as you do. But now I'm returning with golden great store, and I never will play the wild rover no more, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, that I'll play the wild rover, no, never, no more. I went back to an alehouse I used to frequent, and I told the landlady all my money was spent. I asked for a bottle, she answered me nay, such custom as yours I can't have any day, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, that I'll play the wild rover, no, never, no more. Then out of my pocket I pulled sovereigns bright, and the landlady's eyes opened wide with delight. She said, I have whiskey and wine of the best, and I'll take you upstairs and I'll show you the rest. And it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, that I'll play the wild rover, no, never, no more. I'll go back to my parents, confess what I've done, and ask them to pardon the prodigal son. And if they caress me as oft times before, I never will play the wild rover no more, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, that I'll play the wild rover. No, never, no more, and it's no, nay, never. No, nay, never, no more, that I'll play the wild rover. No, never, no more. It occurs to me that I haven't talked about this instrument yet, so it's high time that we do that. Does anyone out there know what this instrument is called? Sorry. This is an Irish drum. It's called a bodhrán, spelled B-O-D-H-R-A-N. And it's spelled that way because in Ireland they're very jealous of the Welsh, who get to add L's sort of willy-nilly to everything. So the bodhrán is played with a tipper, and I have mine especially made for me out of different lengths and kinds of wood, depending on the tone and the pitch that I'm looking for. But all of mine are unique to me with this thumb rest built into the middle. And that's basically just for me because I have a horrible penchant for flinging them into the audience when there's an audience, which I've found is detrimental to CD sales at the end of the show. Did I mention the CDs? Get a CD, or you could get one for your friend. I'm sure you have lots of friends. All right, that's it. I won't advertise the CD anymore, but do come to the website. Do the what? Oh, right. Come to the website, and that's thekiltedman.com. I think it's up here. And so that would be a great place to see the CDs. Also, if you're on any streaming things like Apple Music or Spotify or any of those, then if you search for Matthew Gurnsey, you'll be able to find me and the new CD there as well. So listen, share it with your friends. That'll be a lot of fun for all of us. What was I doing? Oh, I was about to tell you about this. So you play it in the same way as you would if you were, say, painting. So think of this as a painter's palette, and this is a paintbrush, and you paint down, right? And you paint down. You paint down. You do that for a few months to get good at that. And then eventually when you're good at that, then you paint up. Sounds just like painting down, doesn't it? I know it does. You do that for a few more months to get good at that. And then eventually you paint down and up, eh? Right? But as some of you have noticed, there are two ends to the tipper, and I'm only using one. So when you want to, you throw on the other end, and then you get a triplet. That sounds like this. Hear that? Still sounds very boring though, doesn't it? Very humdrum, if you will. So you actually play the bodhrán with your other hand on the inside, and you use your other hand on the inside to get all of the tone and the pitch. So then it sounds like this. And that's basically how you play the bodhrán. Oh, what should we do after that? Let's do... Well, I told an Australian joke earlier, so now we should sing an Australian song. By the way, what do you call a boomerang that doesn't come back? A stick. Here we go. Technically, this is actually possibly a New Zealand song. Anyway, this is about a time when if you stepped a foot out of line, instead of throwing you in jail, it was called transportation. They would put you on board a ship and they would send you off to Van Diemen's Land. Think the region of Australia and New Zealand and that area. And so actually America was a penal colony as well, so I suppose you could have been sent here, but Australia is the general region for those songs. So this is a story. This is a what do you call it? A cautionary tale. Here we go. In a neat little town they call Belfast, apprentice to trade I was bound, and many's an hour of sweet happiness I spent in that neat little town, when a bad misfortune befell me that caused me to stray from the land, far away from my friends and companions, to follow the black velvet band. Her eyes they shone like the diamond, you'd think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. As I went strolling one evening, not intending to stray very far, where I met with a frolicsome damsel who was selling her trade at the bar. Well, a watch she pulled from a customer, she slipped it right into my hand, and the very next thing that you know, me lads, I've landed in Van Diemen's Land. Her eyes they shone like the diamond, you'd think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. One moment. So before the judge and the jury for trial I had to appear. Well, the gentleman claimed his jewellery, and the case against me was quite clear. Now 7 long years' transportation, right down to that Van Diemen's Land, far away from my friends and companions, to follow her black velvet band. Her eyes they shone like the diamond, you'd think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. So come all you jolly young fellows, I'll have you take warning by me, and if ever you're out on the liquor, me lads, beware of the pretty collie. They'll fill you with whiskey and porter until you're not able to stand, and the very next thing that you know, me boys, you've landed in Van Diemen's Land. Her eyes they shone like the diamond, you'd think she was queen of the land, and her hair hung over her shoulder, tied up with a black velvet band. Ah. Well, let's see. We haven't played this. This would be fun. So, this is Celtic music predominantly that I'm playing here, but we'll step a wee bit back into history now to a time before the Celtic nations. So, you have to come along with me to the time of the great and terrible Roman Empire. Now, Rome is taking over the entire known world, and no one is standing before them until they get to just above where England sits today. And coincidentally, that's, of course, where you find Scotland. And there they encountered this diminutive little people who had painted themselves blue with woad. And the Romans were so distressed when they tried to take over these people by what they discovered that instead of continuing their conquest northward, they built a wall, which still stands to this day. It's called Hadrian's Wall. And it's lovely, by the way. If you go up, and I was just up in November hiking a bit of it again, and it's beautiful. But anyway, Rome built this wall and said, basically, we've conquered the entire world, except this little bit which doesn't count. You stay on your end, we'll stay on our side. Let's call it good. So this is a song from the perspective of those people. Now, remember I mentioned that they had painted themselves blue. And so the Romans called them the Picts. And the song is all about how the Picts felt about Rome and their wall. And I thought this would be particularly fun to do for a library audience because the lyrics for this were written by Rudyard Kipling, who wrote Rikki Tikki Tavi and The Jungle Book and other classics you might be familiar with. There's a dreadful joke that accompanies this song. So a Roman legionnaire goes into the pub, goes up to the barkeep and says, "I'll have 5 beers, please." Rome never looks where she treads, always a heavy foot falls on our stomachs, our hearts, and our heads. And Rome never heeds when we bawl. The centuries pass on, that is all. We gather behind them in hordes and plot to reconquer the wall, with only our tongues for our swords. We are the little folk, we, too little to love or to hate, but leave us alone and you'll see how we can drag down the state. Mistletoe killing an oak, rats gnawing cables in tow, moths making holes in a cloak. How they must love what they do. Yes, and we little folk too, for we are as busy as they, working our works out of view. Watch and you'll see it someday. We are the little folk, we, too little to love or to hate, but leave us alone and you'll see how we can drag down the state. No, indeed, we're not strong, but we know peoples that are, and yes, we will guide them along to smash and destroy you in war. We should be slaves just the same. When have we never been slaves? But you will die of the shame, and then we will dance on your graves. We are the little folk, we, too little to love or to hate, but leave us alone and you'll see how fast we can drag down the state. Well, this is a penny whistle. Although this isn't the way they ordinarily look, it's also called a tin whistle, and you're more familiar with it if it looks a bit more like this and sounds something like this. So I affectionately call this a nickel whistle, but in fact they're both penny whistles, and that's an instrument from Ireland. Well, speaking of exotic instruments that you don't get to hear all the time, let's play this. This is an Andy M. Stewart song for any of those of you who might be fans. And since you're watching from home, if you're not already fans, I suppose it would be easy for you to go and look him up after this show is over. But he was in Silly Wizard and a prolific songwriter and has passed away recently. She's far from the land where her young heroes sleep, while around her sweet lovers are sighing. But coldly she turns from their wooings and weeps, Her heart with his cold grave is lying. She sings the wild songs of her own native home. Every note which he so loved waking, I but little they think who delight in her tone. How the heart of this young girl is breaking. Though we live for his love, it's for his country he died. They were all that to life had entwined him. The tears of his country may never run dry, nor long will his love stay behind him. She sings the wild songs of her own native home, every note which he so loved waking. I but little they think who delight in her tone. How the heart of this young girl is breaking. So make her a grave where the sun goes to rise, and think on a glorious tomorrow. May it shine on us asleep like a song from the west, from her own lovely island of sorrow. May it shine on us asleep like a smile from the west, from her own lovely island of sorrow. This is a dulcimer. Now, there are two major kinds of dulcimer left in the world today. There is a hammer dulcimer, which I also have, but I don't have it right here with me on the stage. And then this is a mountain dulcimer, also known as an Appalachian dulcimer. And it was created in the Americas, in the Appalachian Mountains, of course. And so I thought that it would be a fun instrument to pull out for you. But while it was created in the Appalachian Mountains, of course, that was full of Scottish immigrants. And so I thought we could slip it into Celtic music as well. Let's see. I think we're probably running low on time here. So let's do this one. This is traditional, and one that you might know the words to as well. So feel free to sing along wherever you are. I should tell you the story about this song, I suppose. So the Scots and the English have this ongoing relationship. And basically it amounts to they keep trying to teach us a lesson and we keep trying not to learn it. I think that's the nicest way you can say it without offending either side. And there was a particularly dreadful battle for us on the fields of Culloden. And they wiped the field with us. It was horrible. And they said, well, we've finally taught them a lesson once and for all. But of course, you know, the few left in the mud and the muck are still there going, get out of our country. And so they said, well, we didn't teach this lesson quite as well as we thought we did. What could we do? And someone came up with an idea. And they took all of the prisoners of war and they held a lottery. And if you won the lottery, well, then you got to go home scot-free. You've heard that before. And if you lost the lottery, well, then they beheaded you, stuck your head on a pike and paraded it through all the towns in northern England and then all the towns in Scotland that were along the King's Road, also known as the High Road. Now, there were two brothers that fought together on the fields of Culloden, and they were both taken as prisoners of war. And as it happened, one of them won the lottery, and the other one lost the lottery. You take the high road, and I'll take the low road. I'll be in Scotland afar. For me and my true love, wherever one to get, on the bonny, bonny banks a Loch Lomond. 'Twas there that we parted on yon shady glen, on the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, wherein the purple hue, the Hieland hills we view, and the moon coming out in Loch Lomond. You talk the high road and I'll talk the low road. I'll be in Scotland afore ye, for me and my true love forever one together on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. The wee birdies sing and the wildflowers spring, and in sunshine the waters are sleeping, but the broken heart will can nae a second spring again, and the water may cease for their grieving. You talk the high road and I'll talk the low road. I'll be in Scotland afore ye, for me and my true love forever one together on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Well, I think we've got time for at least one more song. And these are interesting times that we live in. That's an old curse, I believe, that you may be born to interesting times. But I wanted to send this out to those of you who might be having a bit of a difficult time with this. And I think that most of us have had some direct experience with what's going on, and some of us have lost those dear to us. So this is for you. Find a key that'll work. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and on the mountain side. The summer's gone and all the flowers are falling. It's you, 'tis you, must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. It's I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. But should you come when all the flowers have fallen, and I am dead, as dead I well may be. You'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me, and I shall hear the soft you tread above me, and all my grave will warmer, sweeter be. For you shall kneel and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me. Well, thank you very much for being with me along this journey, and I wish you all the best wherever you may be. I started off with a sea shanty, and I thought perhaps I would end with one as well. So this will be my last song for you today. But remember that you can find me on my website, thekiltedman.com. I think you can subscribe to this channel, in which case you'll be privy to some of the upcoming streams that I have as well. One way or the other, I hope that we see each other down the road, and may it rise to meet you. This is my favorite sea shanty. It's about a famous whaling ship that in her heyday was something to behold, a legend amongst ships and sailors the world over. Diamond, there's a ship, my boys, and the River straight she's bound, and the quay it is all gonna share where bonny lasses round. Captain Thompson gives the order to sail the ocean wide, where the sun she never sets, me lads, the darkness fills the sky. And it's cheer up, my lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bonny ship her Diamond goes a-fishing for the whale. All along the quay at Peterhead the lassies stand around, the shawls all pulled about them and the salt is running down. Don't you weep, my bonny lass, for you'll be left behind, for the rose will grow on Greenland's ice before we change our mind. And it's cheer up, my lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bonny ship the Diamond goes a-fishing for the whale. It'll be so right both day and night when the Greenland lads come home, with a ship that's full of oil, me boys, and money to our name. When we make the cradles for to rock and the blankets for to tell, and every lass in Peterhead sings hush-a-bye, my dear. And it's cheer up, my lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bonny ship the Diamond goes a-fishing for the whale. It's cheer up, my lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bonny ship the Diamond goes fishing for the whale. Thank you very much. I have been Matthew Gurnsey, the Kilted Man, and it's been my pleasure to perform for you this day. All the best to be with you. Cheers.